Sesi's heart-rending scream broke the stillness of the night in Nyumbani, a small village in the shadow of the imposing Mount Kenya. Her bare feet pounded the earth as she ran toward the river, fleeing the cruel taunts that pursued her like relentless ghosts. Tears blurred her vision, but she knew the path by heart. Finally, she collapsed by the shore, her sobs mingling with the soft murmur of the water. The light of the full moon reflected on the river's surface, creating a silver mirror that returned a distorted image of Sesi, a voluptuous young woman, so despised by the men of the village. "Why, great goddess of the river?" she whispered through her tears. "Why do they despise me so much?" As if in response to her desperate plea, the water began to glow with an ethereal light. From the depths emerged a majestic figure, the great goddess of the river. Her fluid body seemed to be made of crystalline water, and her eyes, deep as ancient wells, looked at Sesi with infinite compassion. The goddess's voice was like the tinkling of crystals as she spoke. "Sesi, my daughter, your heart is more valuable than any physical form. To reveal the truth to those who judge you, you must embark on a journey. Deep in the forest lies the magical tree of the river. Its sap has the power to reveal the true intentions of people." Sesi's eyes widened in amazement. "How can I find this tree, great goddess?" "Follow the river's song, but remember, the journey will not be easy. You will face dangers and temptations. Your determination will be tested." At dawn, Sesi prepared a small bag with provisions. Her father, Omari, watched her with concern. "Where are you going, my daughter?" he asked, his voice tinged with anxiety. Sesi paused at the door, looking at her father with an enigmatic smile. "I'm going to change our destiny, father. I will return soon, I promise." The first days were exhausting. The tree branches scratched her skin, and the sounds of unknown animals kept her constantly alert. But Sesi did not give up. On the fourth day, as she crossed a turbulent stream, she slipped on a moss-covered rock. The icy water engulfed her, threatening to drag her away. She fought against the current, her hands desperately searching for something to hold on to. "I can't give up," she thought, as the water entered her mouth. With superhuman effort, she managed to grab onto a low branch. Gradually, she crawled to the shore, gasping and trembling. The seventh day brought a new challenge, a steep cliff rising toward the sky. For a moment, doubt gripped her. But then, she remembered the goddess's words. She took a deep breath and listened. There, faintly at first, she heard the river's song. It came from the top of the cliff. With renewed determination, Sesi began to climb. Each movement was a test of her strength and will. Her hands soon were raw, bleeding from contact with the rough rock. The sun set and rose again as Sesi climbed. When she finally reached the top, exhausted and sore, she cried out in joy and triumph. It was on the 10th day that Sesi finally saw it, the magical tree of the river. It stood in a clearing, its thick, gnarled trunk twisted into impossible shapes. Its silver leaves shone under the sun. Sesi approached with reverence, taking a small bottle from her bag. "Great tree," she whispered, "I humbly ask for your sap to heal the hearts of my people." A drop of sap, shining like a liquid diamond, fell into Sesi's bottle. She closed it carefully and began her journey back to Nyumbani. The way back was full of dangers, but Sesi faced them with new confidence. She was no longer the insecure young woman who had left the village. When she finally emerged from the forest, the sun was setting over Nyumbani. The villagers stared at her in amazement, murmuring among themselves about her sudden appearance. That night, Sesi prepared a special dinner, pouring the magical sap into the stew. The delicious aroma attracted the men one by one. Jabari, the leader of the mockers, was the first to arrive. He looked at Sesi with a mixture of curiosity and disdain. "What are we celebrating, Sesi?" he asked with a mocking smile. "Your return from the forest? Or maybe you found a spell to make you thin?" Sesi did not respond to the provocation. Instead, she served the plates with a serene smile. "We are celebrating the truth, Jabari. Eat and see." The men ate eagerly, but as the food disappeared from their plates, their expressions began to change. Jabari was the first to gasp, his eyes widening in horror. "I see. I see every cruel word I have said, he murmured, his voice broken by emotion. I feel the pain I have caused. One by one, the men began to shout and moan. Visions of their past actions flooded their minds, every mockery, every look of disgust, every hurtful word. "Forgive us!" cried one of them, falling to his knees before Sesi. "We didn't know. We didn't understand." Outside, the commotion drew the attention of the rest of the village. The villagers gathered around the cabin, watching in amazement as the most proud men of Nyumbani humbled themselves before Sesi. "What is happening?" asked Omari, pushing his way through the crowd. Sesi stepped out of her cabin, her imposing figure illuminated by the moonlight. "They are seeing the truth, Father," Sesi replied, her voice clear and strong. "They are feeling the pain they have caused, and now they have the opportunity to change." The following days were a whirlwind of emotions and changes in Nyumbani. However, not everyone accepted the change immediately. Some men, ashamed of their past actions, found it difficult to look Sesi in the eye. Others, fearful of change, resisted in silence, longing for the old times. Jabari, once the most arrogant of all, struggled internally with his transformation. One night, unable to sleep, he approached Sesi. "How can I live with the guilt of what I have done?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. Sesi looked at him with compassion. "Guilt is the first step towards change, Jabari. Use it as motivation to be better, not as a chain that ties you to the past." As Nyumbani evolved, it faced new challenges. The change in the village dynamics attracted the attention of neighboring villages. Some viewed the new order with admiration, while others looked at it with skepticism and disdain. One day, a delegation from the neighboring village of Mawingu arrived in Nyumbani. Their leader, a burly man named Baraka, looked around with evident disgust. "We have heard strange rumors about Nyumbani," he declared, his voice booming in the square. "It is said that here men have become weak, dominated by fat and ugly women. Is this true?" A tense silence fell over the crowd. Sesi stepped forward, her serene presence contrasting with Baraka's aggressiveness. "In Nyumbani," she replied calmly, "we have learned that strength is not measured by domination, but by compassion. And beauty is not limited to body shape, but shines through our kind actions and words." Baraka let out a mocking laugh. "Nonsense. A village ruled by such ideas is doomed to weakness and failure." It was then that Jabari intervened, his voice firm and resolute. "I challenge you, Baraka, to spend a week in our village. Live among us, observe our lives. If at the end of that week you still think we are weak, we will submit to your judgment." Baraka, intrigued by the challenge and confident in his own superiority, accepted. During the next 7 days, he witnessed life in Nyumbani. He saw how men and women worked together in the fields, how they respected each other, and how the community thrived under this new order. At first, Baraka remained skeptical, looking for signs of weakness. But gradually, the harmony and evident happiness in Nyumbani began to affect him. However, his pride prevented him from admitting it openly. One afternoon, while watching a group of children playing, a little girl approached him. "Why do you always seem so angry, sir?" she asked innocently. Baraka, surprised by the question, felt his mask of hardness crack. I'm not angry," he replied with difficulty. "It's just that things here are very different from what I am used to." The girl looked at him with curiosity. "And is that bad?" That simple question resonated in Baraka's mind for days. He began to question his own beliefs and prejudices. On the last night of his stay, during a grand celebration in the village square, Baraka stood up. The crowd fell silent, awaiting his verdict. "I have lived among you for a week," he began, his voice grave but without the initial arrogance. "I came looking for weakness, but instead I found a strength I had never seen before. A strength that comes from mutual respect, from acceptance, from love." He turned to Sesi, bowing slightly in respect. "You, Sesi, have brought great change to your village. A change that, I admit, I did not understand or value at first. but now I see the wisdom in your teachings." A murmur of amazement ran through the crowd. No one expected this admission from Baraka. "I will return to Mawingu," he continued, "not to warn them against you, but to share what I have learned here. But I must be honest. It will not be easy. Our traditions are deeply rooted, and many will resist change, as I did at first." Sesi nodded, understanding the challenge Baraka would face. "Change is never easy, Baraka, but every step, no matter how small, brings us closer to a better world. Do not expect to transform Mawingu overnight. Patience and persistence will be your best allies." In the months that followed, Nyumbani faced new challenges. Some people, influenced by skeptical visitors, began to question whether the change had really been for the better. There were moments of tension and conflict. One day, a group of young people, led by Jabari's son, rebelled against the new norms. They argued that the village had become too soft and that they needed to return to the old traditions to be strong. Sesi, instead of suppressing them, invited them to an open debate in the village square. For hours, she listened to their concerns and arguments. Then, with patience and wisdom, she showed them how true strength comes from unity and mutual respect, not from domination and fear. "The strength you seek," she told them, "is not found in oppressing others, but in lifting each other up. Look around you. Do you not see how our village has flourished since we learned to value each person for their unique gifts?" Gradually, the young people began to understand. Jabari's son, moved by Sesi's words, became a fervent advocate for Nyumbani's new way of life. Meanwhile, in Mawingu, Baraka faced harsh resistance. Many accused him of having become weak, of having been bewitched by the women of Nyumbani. But Baraka, remembering the lessons he had learned, persisted with patience and determination. One day, a drought struck the region. The crops withered, and the livestock began to die. Mawingu, clinging to its old traditions, suffered greatly. Nyumbani, on the other hand, thanks to its new unity and cooperation, managed the crisis better. Baraka saw this as an opportunity. He proposed an alliance between the two villages, suggesting that Nyumbani share its water conservation and drought-resistant farming techniques in exchange for Mawingu's labor force. At first, there was resistance on both sides. Some in Nyumbani feared that those from Mawingu would bring back the old customs. In Mawingu, many refused to learn from those they considered weak. Sesi, seeing the importance of this moment, decided to visit Mawingu personally. Her arrival caused a stir. Many looked at her with a mixture of curiosity and disdain, but she kept her composure, remembering her own journey of transformation. In Mawingu's central square, Sesi addressed the gathered crowd. "I do not come to change who you are," she began, her voice clear and firm. "I come to offer you a hand in times of need, as you would do for a neighbor in distress." A burly man stepped forward, his voice full of disdain. "And what can a fat woman from a village of weaklings teach us?" The silence that followed was tense, but Sesi did not flinch. Instead, she smiled with compassion. "Not long ago, I would have shrunk before words like those. But I have learned that my value is not in my appearance, but in what I can offer the world. And today, I offer knowledge that can save lives." With a gesture, she invited some farmers from Nyumbani to present the water conservation and drought-resistant farming techniques they had developed. Gradually, the initial hostility gave way to curiosity and then to genuine interest. In the following weeks, Sesi and her team worked tirelessly alongside the people of Mawingu. They faced resistance, mockery, and distrust, but persisted with patience and determination. One day, while Sesi was teaching a group of women how to create an efficient irrigation system, she noticed a young girl watching from afar. The girl, thin and seemingly shy, seemed to want to approach but did not dare. Sesi excused herself from the group and approached the young girl. "Hello," she said gently. "My name is Sesi. What is your name?" "Zuri," the girl replied in a low voice, avoiding eye contact. "Zuri, would you like to join us? Your hands seem strong and skillful. You would be of great help." Zuri's eyes lit up at the compliment, but then darkened. "But I'm too thin. The men say I'm not a real woman, that I'm worthless." Sesi's heart ached at recognizing the pain in Zuri's eyes, a pain she herself had experienced. "Zuri, look at me," Sesi said, gently taking the young girl's hands. "I am big, you are thin. We are both women. We are both valuable. Your body does not define your worth. It is your actions, your heart, your mind that make you valuable." Tears began to run down Zuri's cheeks. "Do you really believe that?" "I know it," Sesi responded firmly. "And I will show you. Come, join us. Let your actions speak louder than others' cruel words." That day marked a turning point. Zuri not only joined the group, but proved to be extremely skilled and innovative. Her example inspired other women and young people to participate, challenging Mawingu's old norms. As the days passed, the changes in Mawingu became increasingly evident. The fields began to flourish despite the drought, and the cooperation between men and women led to new ideas and solutions. However, not everything was easy. A group of men, led by the same one who had insulted Sesi on the first day, began to sow discontent. They argued that the new ways were weakening Mawingu, that they were losing their identity. The tension reached its peak one night when this group stormed a meeting, demanding that Sesi and her people leave. The situation threatened to turn violent. It was then that Zuri, the once shy and fearful young girl, stepped forward. Her voice, though trembling at first, gained strength as she spoke. "Look around you," she said. "Our fields are green in the midst of a drought. Our children have food on their plates. Our women no longer hide in the shadows but contribute their ideas and skills. Do you call this weakness? I call it strength. A strength that comes from unity, from mutual respect." Her words had a profound impact. Even the most skeptical could not deny the truth in what she said. The leader of the dissident group, visibly moved, bowed his head in surrender. That night marked a new beginning for Mawingu. The alliance with Nyumbani was solidified, and both villages began to prosper together. Months later, when the rainy season finally arrived, a grand celebration was organized between the two villages. In the central square, decorated with flowers and colorful flags, Sesi and Baraka stood side by side. Baraka, with a genuine smile on his face, addressed the crowd. "Not long ago, I came to Nyumbani seeking weakness and found a strength I did not understand. Today, that strength has transformed not only Nyumbani, but also Mawingu. We have learned that true strength is not in dominating others, but in lifting each other up." Sesi nodded, her heart overflowing with joy and gratitude. "This is only the beginning," she added. "Together, we can create a world where every person is valued for who they are, not how they look. A world where compassion and respect are the norm, not the exception." The celebration lasted all night, with music, dancing, and feasting. People of all shapes, sizes, and colors mingled freely, laughing and sharing stories. In a quiet moment, Sesi found herself by the river, the same river where her journey had begun. She closed her eyes, feeling the breeze on her face, listening to the soft murmur of the water. "Thank you," she whispered, her words directed both to the river and to the great goddess who had once appeared to her. "Thank you for showing me the way." As if in response to her gratitude, the river's water shone for a moment with an ethereal light. Sesi smiled, knowing that her journey was not over. In fact, it was just beginning. But now she was not alone. She had a whole community, 2 united villages, walking with her toward a brighter and more compassionate future. As she returned to the celebration, Sesi reflected on all she had learned. True transformation, she realized, was not just about changing oneself, but about inspiring change in others. It was about creating a ripple effect of compassion and understanding that could extend beyond the boundaries of a single village. In the years that followed, the story of Nyumbani and Mawingu spread throughout the region. People from distant villages came to learn from their example. Sesi, along with Baraka and other leaders, traveled to share their message of acceptance and inner value. It was not always easy. They encountered resistance, skepticism, and sometimes open hostility. But with each challenge, with each heart they managed to touch, the movement grew stronger. Sesi never forgot her own struggles, the pain of feeling rejected and belittled. She used those experiences to connect with others who were suffering, to show them that change was possible, that self-worth did not depend on others' opinions. One day, years later, as Sesi walked the streets of Nyumbani, now a thriving city known for its inclusivity and compassion, she encountered a young girl crying on a bench. She sat next to her and listened to her story, so similar to her own from so many years ago. Gently, Sesi took the young girl's hands. "Your journey is just beginning," she said, "and it can be difficult. But always remember, you are valuable, you are beautiful, you are strong. Not for how you look, but for who you are in your heart. And you have the power to change not only your life, but the lives of those around you." As the girl looked at her with renewed hope, Sesi felt a deep sense of fulfillment. Her own journey, which had begun with pain and despair, had led to the transformation of entire communities. And here she was, passing the torch to a new generation. Sesi smiled, knowing that the change she had initiated would continue long after she was gone. The seed of acceptance and self-love she had planted would keep growing, flourishing in a more compassionate and understanding world for all. And so, at the foot of Mount Kenya, the story of Sesi and her journey of transformation became a legend, a beacon of hope for all who had ever felt belittled or rejected. A story that reminded everyone that true beauty and strength come from within, and that each of us has the power to change the world, one heart at a time. Leave your comments below and share what you have learned from this story. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss our upcoming exciting stories.